beneath the endless desert skies of Egypt, along the banks of the mighty Nile River, a civilization unlike any other rose from the sands. Ancient Egypt, with its towering monuments, intricate art, and profound spirituality, was a land shaped by the rhythm of the Nile's waters. The river, a lifeline in the harsh desert landscape, brought not only sustenance and fertility to the land, but also became the foundation upon which the Egyptian people built one of the greatest civilizations in history. At the heart of this extraordinary society stood the Pharaohs, rulers who were more than mere kings. To their people, the Pharaohs were living gods, earthly manifestations of divine power, tasked with maintaining the delicate balance between the gods, the land, and their subjects. Their reigns were marked by grand achievements in architecture, art, and culture, but also by their enduring quest for immortality, seeking to ensure that their names and deeds would live on forever. The story of ancient Egypt is, in many ways, the story of its pharaohs. From the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt by the first pharaoh, Narmer, to the construction of the awe-inspiring Great Pyramid of Giza under Khufu, and the reign of the legendary Cleopatra, the pharaohs left an indelible mark on the world. Their vast tombs, magnificent temples, and colossal statues were more than mere symbols of power. They were bridges between the mortal and divine realms, created to ensure the pharaoh's eternal existence in the afterlife. Yet, despite their divine status, the pharaohs were also human, and their reigns were filled with triumphs and challenges. Some, like Hatshepsut, defied tradition to rule as a female pharaoh, while others, like Akhenaten, challenged the religious order by promoting the worship of a single god. Through wars, alliances, and monumental construction projects, the pharaohs of Egypt left behind a legacy that continues to fascinate and inspire us today. As you embark on this journey through the ages, you will travel alongside these extraordinary rulers, witnessing the grandeur of their reigns, the beauty of their achievements, and the mysteries of their divine power. From the early dynasties to the final days of Cleopatra, the story of Egypt's pharaohs is a tale of ambition, faith, and the timeless flow of the Nile, always moving, always eternal. Chapter 1. Narmer, the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Long before the construction of the Great Pyramids and the flourishing of Egypt's Golden Age, there was a time when Egypt was not yet one unified kingdom. It was a land divided, split into two regions, Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north, where the Nile River flowed into the Mediterranean Sea. These two regions, each with its own rulers, customs, and deities, coexisted in a delicate balance. But the desire for unity and power was never far from the minds of their leaders. Around 3100 BCE, a pharaoh emerged who would forever change the course of Egyptian history. His name was Narmer, and he is often regarded as the first true pharaoh of Egypt, the one who united the two lands, Upper and Lower Egypt, into a single powerful kingdom. This unification marked the beginning of the first dynasty, and the dawn of one of the most remarkable civilizations the world has ever seen. Narmer's rise to power is shrouded in both legend and history, with much of what we know coming from ancient artifacts and inscriptions. One of the most famous of these artifacts is the Narmer palette, a ceremonial stone carving that depicts Narmer's victory over his enemies and the symbolic unification of Egypt. The palette shows Narmer wearing both the white crown of Upper Egypt and the red crown of Lower Egypt, symbolizing his rule over the newly united kingdom. In his hands, He holds the symbols of kingship, including a mace, demonstrating his authority and strength. The unification of Egypt was not merely a political achievement, it was also a deeply symbolic event. For the Egyptians, the joining of Upper and Lower Egypt represented the merging of two vital forces. One represented by the fertile lands of the Nile Delta in the north, and the other by the more arid, mountainous regions of the south. Together, they formed a single, powerful kingdom, with the Nile River as its lifeblood, sustaining both the land and its people. Narmer's reign set the foundation for the future pharaohs who would follow in his footsteps, establishing the first centralized government in Egypt. He is believed to have founded the city of Memphis near the junction of Upper and Lower Egypt, which would serve as the capital of the United Kingdom for centuries. Memphis, with its strategic location near the Nile Delta, became the center of trade, administration, and religious life, playing a crucial role in the development of Egypt as a powerful and cohesive state. Beyond the political and military unification, Narmer's reign was also a cultural turning point. It was during his rule that many of the symbols and traditions that would define ancient Egypt for millennia began to take shape. The concept of the pharaoh as both a king and a god, responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the divine order of the universe, was solidified during this time. Narmer's unification of Egypt was seen as a reflection of this cosmic order, with the pharaoh positioned as the intermediary between the gods and the people. Narmer's legacy endures not only in the annals of Egyptian history, but also in the monuments and artifacts that have survived to this day. His reign marked the beginning of what would become the world's most enduring civilization, one that would thrive for more than 3,000 years, leaving behind a wealth of knowledge, culture, and art that continues to captivate and inspire us today. As you reflect on Narmer's unification of Egypt, imagine the great pharaoh standing at the helm of this new kingdom, gazing out over the land he had brought together. His vision of a united Egypt would shape the destiny of the nation, guiding it through the ages as a beacon of power, stability, and divine order. And just as the Nile flows steadily through the heart of Egypt, so too does the legacy of Narmer, the first pharaoh, who united the two lands into one. Chapter 2: Djoser and the Step Pyramid. As Egypt entered the Third Dynasty, the reign of Pharaoh Djoser brought about a period of innovation and architectural brilliance that would forever change the landscape of the kingdom. Djoser was not only a powerful ruler, but he also presided over one of the most significant advancements in Egyptian construction: the creation of the first stone pyramid, known as the Step Pyramid. His reign marked a turning point in the way Egyptians honored their pharaohs, laying the foundation for the great pyramids that would follow. Before Djoser's reign, Egyptian rulers were buried in mastabas, flat-roofed rectangular tombs made of mud brick. These tombs were impressive, but Djoser, under the guidance of his brilliant architect Imhotep, sought something more: a monument that would reflect the divine power and eternal legacy of a pharaoh. Imhotep, who was not only an architect but also a priest, physician, and sage, was tasked with designing a structure that would honor Djoser in the afterlife and serve as a symbol of his enduring greatness. The result was the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, a revolutionary design that transformed the traditional mastaba into a towering structure made of stone. Built in stages, the pyramid rose in 6 distinct levels, or steps, creating a monumental staircase that was believed to lead the pharaoh's spirit to the heavens. This was the first time in Egyptian history that stone had been used on such a massive scale. marking the beginning of a new era in architecture and construction. The Step Pyramid, which stands at the center of a vast mortuary complex in Saqqara, was not only a tomb but also a sacred site for rituals and offerings to honor Djoser's soul in the afterlife. Surrounding the pyramid were temples, courtyards, and chapels, all designed to ensure that the pharaoh's Ka, or spirit, would be sustained for eternity. The entire complex was enclosed by a massive limestone wall, with a single ceremonial entrance symbolizing the separation between the mortal and divine realms. The construction of the Step Pyramid was a monumental achievement. It required the labor of thousands of workers and the expertise of Egypt's finest craftsmen. The pyramid's stone blocks were meticulously quarried, transported, and assembled, creating a structure that would stand the test of time. Today, more than 4,600 years later, the Step Pyramid remains one of the most iconic and enduring symbols of ancient Egypt's ingenuity. Djoser's decision to build the Step Pyramid was not only about creating a grand tomb for himself, it was also a statement of his power and divine right to rule. By commissioning such an extraordinary monument, Djoser reinforced the idea that the pharaoh was not just a king but a living god, chosen by the deities to maintain order and balance in the world. His pyramid was meant to ensure that, even in death, he would continue to protect and guide Egypt from the afterlife. Imhotep's role in designing the Step Pyramid cannot be overstated. His architectural genius not only set the stage for future pyramid construction, but also earned him a place in Egyptian history as one of the most revered figures of the time. So admired was Imhotep that long after his death he was deified, becoming the god of medicine and wisdom. His name would be remembered for centuries, a testament to the profound impact he had on Egyptian culture and architecture. Djoser's Step Pyramid was more than just a burial site. It was a symbol of the transformation of Egyptian society and its embrace of monumental stone architecture. This innovation would inspire the construction of even greater pyramids in the centuries to come, including the Great Pyramid of Giza, built by Khufu in the 4th Dynasty. As you reflect on Djoser's reign and the creation of the Step Pyramid, imagine the awe it must have inspired in the people of Egypt. The towering structure rising above the desert, its steps reaching toward the sky. It stood as a reminder of the pharaoh's divine authority and the eternal connection between the heavens and the earth. Djoser's legacy, immortalized in stone, marked the beginning of Egypt's most iconic architectural achievements, and his name would be remembered for millennia as the pharaoh who transformed the way Egypt honored its kings. Chapter 3: Sneferu and the Art of Pyramid Building. As Egypt moved into the 4th Dynasty, the reign of Pharaoh Sneferu marked a new era of architectural mastery and innovation. Sneferu, the first pharaoh of the 4th Dynasty, would go on to be remembered as one of the most prolific builders of pyramids in Egyptian history. Under his reign, the art of pyramid construction reached new heights, culminating in the creation of not one, but 3 significant pyramids that forever changed the landscape of ancient Egypt. While Djoser's Step Pyramid had been revolutionary in its own right, it was Sneferu who perfected the smooth-sided pyramid design that would become the defining symbol of ancient Egyptian power and immortality. His reign saw the transition from the stepped pyramid form to the more refined and geometrically precise structures that would eventually lead to the Great Pyramid of Giza, built by his son Khufu. Sneferu's first attempt at pyramid building began at Meidum, where he commissioned what was intended to be a traditional stepped pyramid. However, partway through construction, the design was altered to create a smooth-sided pyramid, marking the first attempt to build a true pyramid. Unfortunately, the Mayadoum pyramid was not entirely successful, and it later partially collapsed, leaving behind a structure that resembles a tower rather than the grand monument Sneferu had envisioned. Despite this setback, the Mayadoum pyramid was a critical step in the evolution of pyramid construction, as it demonstrated the challenges and complexities of achieving a smooth, symmetrical form. Not one to be deterred by failure, Sneferu quickly moved on to his next great project, the bent pyramid at Dashur. This pyramid, with its unique shape, represents one of the most fascinating architectural experiments in Egyptian history. The bent pyramid rises from the desert floor at a steep angle, but about halfway up, the angle of the sides becomes much shallower, creating the distinct bent shape that gives the pyramid its name. The reason for this sudden change in angle remains a subject of debate among historians and archaeologists. Some believe it was an engineering necessity, as the original steep angle may have caused structural instability. Others suggest that the change in design was intentional, perhaps to reflect a symbolic or religious significance. Whatever the reason, the bent pyramid stands as a testament to Sneferu's determination to perfect the art of pyramid building, and it remains one of the most unique monuments in Egypt to this day. Despite the unusual shape of the bent pyramid, Sneferu's ambition was far from diminished. His next project, the Red Pyramid, also located at Dashur, was a resounding success and is considered the first true smooth-sided pyramid in Egyptian history. The Red Pyramid, named for the reddish hue of its limestone blocks, stands at an impressive height of 104 meters, 341 feet, and boasts perfectly straight, smooth sides. It was this pyramid that finally achieved the design Sneferu had been striving for, with its symmetrical form and grand scale. The Red Pyramid's construction was a monumental achievement, showcasing the advanced engineering skills of Sneferu's architects and workers. Its design would serve as the prototype for the more famous Great Pyramid of Giza, which would be built by Sneferu's son, Khufu. With the successful completion of the Red Pyramid, Sneferu secured his place as one of Egypt's greatest pyramid builders, and his reign became synonymous with architectural innovation and experimentation. Sneferu's legacy as a master pyramid builder went beyond the physical structures he left behind. His reign set the stage for the great pyramid-building era that would follow, inspiring future pharaohs to continue pushing the boundaries of architecture and engineering. The advancements made under Sneferu's rule not only transformed the way pyramids were constructed, but also reinforced the idea that the pharaoh's tomb was more than just a burial site. It was a symbol of the eternal power and divinity of the ruler. In addition to his contributions to pyramid construction, Sneferu's reign was marked by prosperity and stability. He expanded Egypt's borders through military campaigns, strengthened trade relations with neighboring regions, and oversaw a flourishing economy. His ability to balance both military might and architectural ambition made him one of the most respected and successful pharaohs of the Old Kingdom. As you reflect on Sneferu's reign, imagine the bustling activity at the construction sites of his pyramids, the sound of stone being quarried and shaped, the sight of workers carefully placing each massive block in its designated position, and the sense of pride and accomplishment that must have filled the air as the first true pyramid took shape. Sneferu's pyramids, particularly the Red Pyramid, stand as lasting monuments to his vision and determination. His achievements in the art of pyramid building would pave the way for the iconic structures that continue to define Egypt's ancient legacy. Chapter 4: Khufu and the Great Pyramid of Giza. As Egypt's pyramid-building tradition reached its pinnacle, the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops, brought forth the most iconic and enduring symbol of ancient Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Standing as a testament to human ingenuity, ambition, and devotion, the Great Pyramid remains one of the most magnificent architectural achievements in human history. It is the largest of all the pyramids, a structure that has inspired wonder for millennia, and it still dominates the landscape of Giza, near modern-day Cairo. Khufu's reign, during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom, was marked by his ambitious desire to build a monument that would stand as an eternal symbol of his power and divine right to rule. The pyramid was intended to be his final resting place, a grand tomb that would ensure his journey to the afterlife and secure his place among the gods. But the Great Pyramid was more than just a tomb. It was a statement of Egypt's architectural prowess and a reflection of the central role the pharaoh played in maintaining the balance of the cosmos. The construction of the Great Pyramid began around 2580 BCE, and it is believed to have taken roughly 20 years to complete. It was an immense undertaking, requiring the labor of tens of thousands of workers, engineers, and skilled craftsmen. Unlike the popular misconception that the pyramids were built by slaves, most historians now believe that the workforce consisted of paid laborers who were housed in nearby workers' villages and provided with food, shelter, and medical care. These laborers were proud of their work, knowing they were contributing to a monumental project that would last for eternity. The sheer scale of the Great Pyramid is staggering. Originally standing at 146.6 meters, 481 feet, it was the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 3,800 years. It was constructed using approximately 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons. The precision with which these blocks were quarried, transported, and placed remains a subject of amazement and study. The pyramid's base covers an area of over 13 acres, and its sides are almost perfectly aligned with the cardinal points of the compass: north, south, east, and west. The methods used to construct the Great Pyramid have long been a source of fascination and debate. Without the use of modern machinery, the ancient Egyptians relied on sheer human ingenuity and a deep understanding of mathematics and engineering. Ramps, sleds, and levers are thought to have played a crucial role in the transportation and placement of the massive stone blocks. Workers used copper tools to cut and shape the limestone, and the entire project was overseen by skilled architects and engineers who ensured that each block was placed with meticulous precision. Inside the pyramid, a complex system of passageways and chambers was designed to house the pharaoh's body and the treasures he would take with him into the afterlife. At the heart of the structure lies the king's chamber, where Khufu's sarcophagus was placed. Above the king's chamber are several relieving chambers, designed to distribute the weight of the massive stones above and prevent the chamber from collapsing. The pyramid also contains the queen's chamber and a series of narrow shafts, which some believe were meant to allow the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the heavens and join the gods. The pyramid was originally encased in smooth, white Tura limestone, which would have reflected the sun's rays, making the structure gleam brightly and visible from miles away. This outer casing has since eroded or been removed, but in its prime, the Great Pyramid would have been a dazzling sight, a symbol of Khufu's divine power and Egypt's wealth and sophistication. The construction of the Great Pyramid was more than just a monumental feat of engineering. It was also a deeply religious and spiritual act. The Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's tomb was a gateway to the afterlife, where the pharaoh would be reborn as a god. The pyramid's shape, which points toward the sky, was symbolic of the pharaoh's ascent to join the gods in the heavens. It was also aligned with certain stars and constellations, particularly those associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Khufu's reign, while not extensively documented in written records, is defined by this colossal achievement. The Great Pyramid became a model for future tombs, though none would surpass its grandeur or scale. It was the crowning achievement of ancient Egyptian architecture and a reflection of the Old Kingdom's power and stability. Even today, the Great Pyramid of Giza continues to captivate the world. It is the only surviving structure of the seven wonders of the ancient world, and its mystery and magnificence endure. For thousands of years, it has withstood the test of time, weathering the elements and standing as a testament to the enduring legacy of the pharaohs of Egypt. As you reflect on the story of Khufu and the Great Pyramid, imagine the immense effort and devotion that went into constructing this towering monument. Picture the workers, architects, and priests who dedicated their lives to building a structure that would stand for eternity, a bridge between the mortal world and the divine. The Great Pyramid, rising above the sands of Giza, remains a symbol of human ambition, spiritual belief, and the quest for immortality, a legacy that Khufu, the great pharaoh, achieved beyond his wildest dreams. Chapter 5. Hatshepsut, Egypt's female pharaoh. In a time and culture dominated by male rulers, Hatshepsut stands out as one of the most extraordinary figures in ancient Egyptian history. As one of the few women to take on the full title and responsibilities of pharaoh, Hatshepsut's reign was marked by peace, prosperity, and a flourishing of art, architecture, and trade. Her legacy as a powerful and visionary leader defied convention, and she left behind a lasting imprint on Egypt's history. Hatshepsut came to power during the 18th dynasty, a period of great stability and wealth. She was the daughter of Thutmose I and the wife of her half-brother Thutmose II. But her rise to the throne was not straightforward. When her husband died, the rightful heir, Thutmose III, was too young to rule, and Hatshepsut stepped in as regent. Initially, she ruled on behalf of the young pharaoh, but over time, she took on more authority, eventually declaring herself pharaoh in her own right. This was a bold and unprecedented move. In Egyptian society, the pharaoh was traditionally male, viewed as the earthly representative of the gods, particularly the god Horus, who was always depicted as male. Hatshepsut, however, navigated this cultural expectation with remarkable skill. To legitimize her rule, she adopted the full regalia of a pharaoh, including the traditional male clothing, the false beard, and the name's headdress. In inscriptions and statues, she was often depicted with the physical attributes of a male ruler, a clear statement of her authority. Yet, Hatshepsut did not merely claim the title of pharaoh. She ruled with great effectiveness and vision. Her reign, which lasted for about 22 years, was characterized by peace and economic prosperity. Unlike many of her predecessors and successors, who focused on military conquest, Hatshepsut prioritized trade and diplomacy. One of the most significant achievements of her reign was the famous expedition to the land of Punt, a mysterious and distant region thought to be located in modern-day Somalia or the Arabian Peninsula. The expedition to Punt was a resounding success. Hatshepsut's fleet returned with exotic goods, including gold, incense, myrrh, ebony, and ivory. The trade mission not only boosted Egypt's economy, but also solidified Hatshepsut's reputation as a pharaoh who brought wealth and prestige to her people. Scenes of the expedition were meticulously carved into the walls of her mortuary temple, showcasing her accomplishments for future generations. One of Hatshepsut's most lasting legacies is her monumental building projects, particularly her stunning mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Nestled in the cliffs along the west bank of the Nile near Luxor, this temple is considered one of the architectural masterpieces of ancient Egypt. Its grand terraces, colonnades, and statues blend seamlessly into the natural landscape, creating a structure that is both awe-inspiring and harmonious with its surroundings. The temple was dedicated to the god Amun, as well as to Hatshepsut's own divine legacy. Inscriptions and reliefs throughout the temple depict her divine birth, reinforcing her claim to the throne as a chosen ruler of the gods. The temple also celebrates her achievements, including the expedition to Punt, and was designed as a place where she would be honored and remembered for eternity. Despite her remarkable reign, much of Hatshepsut's legacy was nearly erased after her death. When Thutmose III came of age and assumed full power, there was an effort to systematically remove Hatshepsut's name and image from monuments and records. Statues of her were defaced, and her cartouches were chiseled away, possibly in an attempt to restore the traditional line of male succession and diminish her unprecedented role as a female pharaoh. However, Hatshepsut's contributions could not be entirely erased. Modern archaeology has uncovered her legacy, and today she is recognized as one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs. Her ability to maintain peace, strengthen Egypt's economy, and oversee monumental building projects speaks to her exceptional leadership and vision. Far from being merely a placeholder ruler, Hatshepsut was a transformative figure who shaped Egypt's history in profound ways. As you reflect on the story of Hatshepsut, imagine her standing before her magnificent temple at Deir el-Bahari, her gaze fixed on the horizon, confident in her rule and her legacy. She defied the norms of her time, not through conquest, but through wisdom, diplomacy, and innovation. Her reign was a time of peace and prosperity, and her story remains a powerful reminder that true leadership knows no gender. The memory of Hatshepsut endures, not only in the stones of her temple, but in the history of a pharaoh who, against all odds, claimed her place among the gods. Chapter 6. Akhenaten and the Sun. God Aten. In the long history of ancient Egypt, few pharaohs were as controversial or as transformative as Akhenaten, a ruler whose reign marked a dramatic departure from the traditional religious and cultural practices of his time. Akhenaten, originally named Amenhotep IV, ascended the throne during the 18th dynasty, but soon after, he initiated one of the most radical religious revolutions in ancient Egyptian history, an attempt to replace Egypt's long-standing polytheistic worship with the monotheistic worship of the Aten, the sun disk. Before Akhenaten's reign, Egypt's religion was centered around a pantheon of gods and goddesses, the most important of whom was Amun, the king of the gods. Temples dedicated to Amun dominated the religious landscape, and the powerful priesthood of Amun held significant influence over the state. But when Akhenaten took the throne, he sought to change all of that. He declared that Aten, the sun disk, was the one true god, and that he, Akhenaten, was the chosen representative of Aten on earth. This radical shift in religious ideology came with a new name for the pharaoh, Akhenaten, meaning effective for Aten. It also led to the construction of a new capital city, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, which Akhenaten built in honor of his god. The city, situated on the east bank of the Nile, was designed as a center for the worship of Aten, and served as the political and religious heart of Akhenaten's new order. Akhetaten was built quickly and with great care, featuring open-air temples where the rays of the sun could shine directly upon the worshippers, reflecting the central tenet of Aten worship, the life-giving power of the sun. Akhenaten's religious revolution was not just a matter of theology. It was also a profound cultural transformation. Traditional images of the gods were removed, and the many temples dedicated to Amun and other deities were closed or repurposed. Akhenaten himself was depicted in a very different style than previous pharaohs. Rather than the idealized muscular form usually portrayed in royal art, Akhenaten was shown with elongated features, a rounded belly, and a more androgynous appearance. This new artistic style extended to representations of the royal family, including his wife, Nefertiti, and their children, who were often shown in intimate, affectionate family scenes, a marked departure from the more formal and rigid depictions of royal families in earlier periods. At the heart of Akhenaten's religious revolution was his profound devotion to the sun god Aten. In inscriptions and hymns, Aten is described as the source of all life, the giver of light and warmth that nourishes the earth and sustains all living things. One of the most famous of these texts is the great hymn to the Aten, which celebrates the sun god's daily journey across the sky and his role in creating and sustaining life. In this hymn, Aten is praised not only for giving life to the people of Egypt, but also for his care of all living things, both near and far. While Akhenaten's devotion to Aten was unwavering, his religious reforms were not universally embraced. The shift from polytheism to monotheism disrupted centuries of religious tradition and led to widespread discontent, particularly among the powerful priests of Amun, who saw their influence and wealth diminish. The closing of temples and the redirection of resources to the new city of Akhetaten created economic strain, and many Egyptians, accustomed to worshiping multiple gods, were reluctant to embrace Aten as the sole deity. Akhenaten's focus on religion also came at the expense of other aspects of his rule. During his reign, Egypt's foreign policy weakened, and the empire's territories in Nubia, Syria, and Canaan began to slip from its control. This neglect of Egypt's military and diplomatic strength led to political instability, which only added to the growing dissatisfaction with his rule. After Akhenaten's death, likely in the 17th year of his reign, his religious revolution quickly unraveled. His successors, including the young Tutankhamun, who was originally named Tutankhaten in honor of Aten, worked to restore Egypt's traditional religious practices. The capital was moved back to Thebes, and the temples of Amun were reopened. Akhenaten's name and legacy were systematically erased from official records, and his city of Akhetaten was abandoned, left to be swallowed by the desert sands. For centuries, Akhenaten's reign was largely forgotten, his monuments and inscriptions destroyed or buried. It was only in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with the rediscovery of Amarna and the excavation of the city's ruins, that historians began to piece together the story of this enigmatic pharaoh and his bold religious experiment. Today, Akhenaten is remembered not only for his radical departure from Egyptian religious tradition, but also for the unique and highly personal vision he brought to his reign. His devotion to Aten, his emphasis on the sun's life-giving power, and his willingness to challenge the established religious order make him one of the most intriguing and controversial figures in Egyptian history. While his monotheistic experiment was ultimately short-lived, Akhenaten's reign left an indelible mark on Egypt's cultural and religious landscape. As you reflect on the story of Akhenaten, imagine the sun rising over the city of Akhetaten, its rays bathing the open-air temples in golden light. Akhenaten, standing before his people, lifts his arms in praise to Aten, the source of all life. Though his reign was brief, his vision of a world united under the sun, God left a legacy of innovation and controversy, a reminder of the power of belief and the lengths to which a ruler will go to shape the destiny of a kingdom. Chapter 7. Tutankhamun, the Boy King's Legacy. Few names in ancient Egyptian history are as famous today as Tutankhamun, the boy king whose tomb, discovered nearly intact in 1922, became one of the greatest archaeological finds of all time. Yet, during his short reign, Tutankhamun, often affectionately referred to as King Tut, was a relatively minor figure. It was not until the treasures of his tomb were unearthed in the early 20th century that he became a global icon, forever linked to the mysteries and grandeur of ancient Egypt. Tutankhamun was born into a turbulent period of Egyptian history. He was the son of Akhenaten, the controversial pharaoh who had attempted to revolutionize Egypt's religion by promoting the worship of the sun god Aten. After Akhenaten's death, the people of Egypt sought to return to the traditional polytheistic beliefs that had been central to their culture for centuries. This religious and political upheaval shaped much of Tutankhamun's reign. Tutankhamun ascended the throne as a boy of about 9 years old, originally named Tutankhaten in honor of Aten. Given his young age, he relied heavily on powerful advisors, including the Vizier Ai and the General Horemheb, to guide him through the complexities of ruling Egypt. Though the boy king would not live long enough to leave a significant personal mark on Egyptian history, his reign was crucial in restoring order after the chaos of his father's religious revolution. One of the most important decisions made during Tutankhamun's reign was the abandonment of Akhenaten's monotheistic reforms. Under the influence of his advisors, Tutankhamun moved the capital back to Thebes, the traditional religious center, and reopened the temples dedicated to the old gods, particularly Amun, who once again became the chief deity of the Egyptian pantheon. Tutankhamun's name was changed to reflect this return to the traditional beliefs, replacing Aten with Amun, thus becoming Tutankhamun, which means living image of Amun. Despite the religious restoration, Tutankhamun's reign was marked by other significant challenges. Egypt had lost much of its influence abroad during Akhenaten's rule, and attempts were made to restore its diplomatic and military standing. Although Tutankhamun's contributions to Egypt's foreign policy were limited due to his young age and short reign, his advisors worked to rebuild alliances and strengthen Egypt's position. Tutankhamun's reign came to a sudden end around 1324 BCE, when he died unexpectedly at the age of 18 or 19. The cause of his death remains a subject of debate among historians and archaeologists. Some theories suggest he may have died from an illness or infection, while others propose that a combination of genetic disorders and injuries contributed to his early death. His sudden passing left Egypt without a direct heir, and the throne passed to his vizier, A, who succeeded him. What makes Tutankhamun's legacy so remarkable is not his achievements as a ruler, but the discovery of his tomb in the Valley of the Kings. Unlike many of his predecessors, whose tombs had been looted or destroyed over the centuries, Tutankhamun's tomb remained largely intact, providing an unprecedented glimpse into the opulence and artistry of ancient Egyptian burial practices. The discovery of the tomb by Howard Carter in 1922 sent shockwaves through the world. When Carter first peered into the tomb by the light of a flickering candle and was asked if he could see anything, his famous reply was, "Yes, wonderful things." Inside the tomb, Carter and his team found a treasure trove of artifacts, including golden chariots, statues, jewelry, and furniture, all designed to accompany the young pharaoh into the afterlife. At the heart of the tomb lay the iconic golden death mask of Tutankhamun, a masterpiece of ancient craftsmanship that has since become one of the most recognizable symbols of ancient Egypt. The mask, made of solid gold and inlaid with precious stones, depicts the serene face of the boy king, with a false beard and the traditional Nemes headdress worn by pharaohs. This mask, along with the rest of the treasures, provided a window into the beliefs and rituals surrounding death and the afterlife in ancient Egypt. The tomb's discovery not only illuminated the burial customs of the pharaohs, but also sparked worldwide fascination with Egyptology. The artifacts found in Tutankhamun's tomb traveled the world in exhibitions, captivating millions with their beauty and mystery. Tutankhamun, once a relatively obscure figure in Egyptian history, became a symbol of the splendor and allure of ancient Egypt. Tutankhamun's legacy, however, is not without complexity. While his tomb has made him one of the most famous pharaohs of all time, his actual reign was short and relatively uneventful compared to the great builders and warriors who came before and after him. Yet, his story endures, not because of what he achieved in life, but because of the profound impact his death, and the treasures buried with him, had on the modern world's understanding of ancient Egypt. As you reflect on the life of Tutankhamun, imagine the quiet stillness of his tomb, untouched for over 3,000 years, waiting to be discovered beneath the desert sands. The golden treasures within, meant to guide the young king into the afterlife, lay in perfect silence, a testament to the ancient Egyptians' belief in eternal life. Tutankhamun's legacy, though brief in life, has endured for millennia, forever capturing the imagination of those who gaze upon the wonders of his tomb. Chapter 8. Ramses II, the Great Builder. Of all the pharaohs who ruled Egypt, few left as lasting an impact as Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. His reign, which spanned 66 years from 1279 to 1213 BCE, was one of the longest in Egyptian history, and he is remembered as a great warrior, a skilled diplomat, and, most famously, a master builder. His legacy endures not only in the monumental structures he commissioned, but also in the enduring image of a ruler who embodied the might and grandeur of ancient Egypt. Ramses II was born into the 19th dynasty and succeeded his father, Seti I, as pharaoh at a young age. From the outset of his reign, Ramses sought to assert Egypt's dominance both militarily and culturally. He led numerous campaigns to secure Egypt's borders and expand its influence, particularly against the Hittites, a powerful empire based in Anatolia. One of the most famous episodes of his reign was the Battle of Kadesh in 1274 BCE, in which Ramses led his army against the Hittites in what is often considered the largest chariot battle in history. Although the battle itself ended in a stalemate, Ramses II portrayed it as a great victory in the inscriptions and reliefs he had carved into the walls of his temples. In these depictions, Ramses is shown as a fearless and heroic leader, charging into battle on his chariot, often single-handedly turning the tide of the fight. This image of Ramses as a larger-than-life figure was carefully cultivated throughout his reign, helping to solidify his reputation as one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs. But it was not only on the battlefield that Ramses II made his mark. He was also an extraordinary builder, commissioning a vast number of temples, statues, and monuments across Egypt that reflected the wealth and power of his reign. His building projects were designed not only to honor the gods, but also to immortalize his own image and achievements, ensuring that his legacy would endure for millennia. One of the most impressive and well-known of Ramses II's monuments is the Great Temple at Abu Simbel, located in southern Egypt near the border with Nubia. Carved directly into the sandstone cliffs, the temple is dedicated to the gods Amun, Ra-Horakhti, and Ptah, as well as to Ramses himself, who is depicted in colossal statues flanking the entrance. The 4 seated statues of Ramses, each standing over 20 meters tall, gaze out across the desert, a powerful reminder of his might and divine authority. Inside the temple, scenes of Ramses offering gifts to the gods and depictions of the pharaoh's military victories further emphasize his role as both a warrior and a chosen leader of the gods. The Great Temple at Abu Simbel is not only a testament to Ramses's architectural ambition, but also a marvel of ancient engineering. The temple was designed so that twice a year, on February 22nd and October 22nd, the rays of the rising sun would penetrate the sanctuary and illuminate the statues of Ramses and the gods, a symbolic affirmation of the pharaoh's connection to the divine.
Another of Ramses' monumental achievements is the Ramesseum, his mortuary temple located on the west bank of the Nile near Thebes. The Ramesseum Ramses and was filled with statues, columns, and reliefs that celebrated his reign and his contributions to Egypt. It was part of a larger complex that included storerooms, workshops, and housing for priests, and it was meant to ensure that Ramses would be remembered and honored for generations to come.
Ramses II also contributed significantly to the temples at Karnak and Luxor, 2 of the most important religious sites in ancient Egypt. At Karnak, he added a series of massive statues and obelisks, as well as an entire temple complex dedicated to his reign. At Luxor, Ramses commissioned statues of himself and built a grand courtyard and a processional avenue lined with sphinxes, connecting the Temple of Luxor to the Temple of Karnak. These projects further solidified his legacy as one of Egypt's greatest builders. Beyond his architectural achievements, Ramses II was also known for his diplomatic skill. After years of conflict with the Hittites, Ramses eventually negotiated the first known peace treaty in history. The Treaty of Kadesh, signed around 1259 BCE, brought an end to the hostilities between Egypt and the Hittites and established a lasting peace between the 2 powers. The treaty was inscribed on temple walls in both Egypt and Hittite lands, and it remains one of the earliest examples of diplomatic negotiation and compromise in human history. Ramses's long reign provided stability to Egypt, and he used this time to strengthen the nation's infrastructure and economy. He oversaw the construction of roads, irrigation systems, and granaries, which helped to ensure the prosperity of Egypt's population. His reign was a golden age of wealth and cultural achievement, and his ability to maintain peace and security allowed Egypt to flourish. When Ramses II died in 1213 BCE at the age of around 90, he had ruled Egypt for more than 6 decades. His tomb, located in the Valley of the Kings, was a grand burial chamber befitting a pharaoh of his stature, though his mummy was later moved to a more secure location to protect it from tomb robbers. Today, the mummy of Ramses II is housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, where visitors from around the world come to see the remains of the man who is often regarded as the greatest pharaoh of all time. Ramses II's legacy endures not only in the colossal statues and temples he left behind, but also in the stories of his reign, stories of battles fought, treaties signed, and monumental structures built to honor both the gods and the pharaoh himself. As you reflect on Ramses's reign, imagine the towering statues of Abu Simbel, gazing out over the Nile, the sun rising to cast its light on the face of the great pharaoh, a reminder of his enduring presence in the history of Egypt and the world. Chapter 9. Cleopatra, the Last Pharaoh. As the sun set on the ancient world, one of Egypt's most famous and enigmatic rulers emerged to guide the nation through its final years as an independent kingdom. Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, is a figure whose life has been immortalized in history, literature, and legend. Known for her intelligence, political acumen, and her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, Cleopatra's story is one of both triumph and tragedy, as she fought to preserve her kingdom's independence in the face of the expanding Roman Empire. Born in 69 BCE into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Macedonian Greek family that had ruled Egypt since the time of Alexander the Great, Cleopatra was destined for power from a young age. The Ptolemies had adopted many aspects of Egyptian culture, but they ruled as outsiders, maintaining Greek as their court language and often engaging in bitter power struggles within the royal family. Cleopatra, however, was different. She embraced Egypt's heritage and is said to have been the first in her dynasty to learn and speak the Egyptian language, endearing herself to her people and solidifying her legitimacy as a true ruler of Egypt. Cleopatra ascended to the throne at the age of 18, co-ruling with her younger brother Ptolemy XIII. Like many Ptolemaic rulers before her, Cleopatra's reign was marked by political intrigue and family conflict. Within a few years, a struggle for power erupted between Cleopatra and her brother, leading to her exile from Alexandria. But Cleopatra, ever the shrewd strategist, would not remain in exile for long. In 48 BCE, Cleopatra saw an opportunity to reclaim her throne when Julius Caesar, the powerful Roman general, arrived in Egypt pursuing his rival Pompey. Cleopatra famously arranged to meet Caesar, and the tale of her dramatic entrance, allegedly smuggled into his quarters wrapped in a rug, has become the stuff of legend. Her charm, intelligence, and political savvy impressed Caesar, and the two quickly formed an alliance, both political and romantic. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra was able to defeat her brother's forces and reclaim her throne. She became Caesar's lover, and in 47 BCE she gave birth to a son, Ptolemy XV, whom she named Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. Cleopatra's relationship with Caesar was not merely personal, it was also part of a larger political strategy. By aligning herself with the most powerful man in Rome, Cleopatra sought to protect Egypt's independence and secure her own position as its ruler. Cleopatra traveled to Rome in 46 BCE, where she lived as Caesar's guest, though her presence caused scandal in Roman society. Her boldness and foreign origins made her both admired and feared by the Romans, and she became a subject of fascination and gossip. However, her time in Rome was cut short when Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE. With her protector gone and Egypt's future uncertain, Cleopatra returned to Alexandria, where she would once again need to navigate the dangerous waters of Roman politics. The next chapter in Cleopatra's life brought her into the orbit of Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful leaders and a member of the Second Triumvirate that ruled the Roman world after Caesar's death. In 41 BCE, Antony summoned Cleopatra to meet him in Tarsus, and she arrived in grand style, sailing up the Cydnus River in a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite. Cleopatra's charm and wit quickly won over Antony, and the two formed a close alliance. Antony and Cleopatra's relationship, like her earlier one with Caesar, was both romantic and political. Together, they sought to rule the eastern part of the Roman Empire, with Cleopatra hoping to expand her influence and secure her son Caesarion's future. Over the next decade, Cleopatra and Antony lived in Egypt, where they were famously depicted as living in luxury, hosting lavish feasts and celebrations that cemented their legendary status. However, their union was not without consequences. In Rome, Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and Antony's rival for power, used the relationship between Antony and Cleopatra to paint Antony as a traitor to Rome, accusing him of falling under the spell of the foreign queen. Tensions between Octavian and Antony eventually boiled over into open conflict, leading to the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, a decisive naval engagement that would seal the fate of both Antony and Cleopatra. At Actium, Antony and Cleopatra's forces were decisively defeated by Octavian's fleet. In the aftermath, Antony and Cleopatra fled back to Egypt, where they made a final stand. Realizing that defeat was inevitable, Antony, believing that Cleopatra had already taken her own life, fell on his sword, dying in her arms. Cleopatra, determined not to be paraded through the streets of Rome as a captive in Octavian's triumph, also took her own life shortly after. According to legend, she allowed herself to be bitten by an asp, a venomous snake, though the exact method of her death remains uncertain. With Cleopatra's death, the Ptolemaic dynasty came to an end, and Egypt was annexed by Rome, becoming a Roman province. Caesarion, Cleopatra's son by Julius Caesar, was captured and executed, eliminating any remaining claim to the Egyptian throne. The death of Cleopatra marked the end of over 3,000 years of pharaonic rule in Egypt, and the ancient kingdom that had once been the cradle of one of the world's greatest civilizations was now under Roman control. Despite her tragic end, Cleopatra's legacy has endured. She is remembered not only for her beauty, which was famously exaggerated by Roman propaganda, but for her intelligence, political skill, and determination to preserve Egypt's sovereignty. Cleopatra was a multilingual scholar, a capable ruler, and a woman who, despite the odds, wielded immense power in a world dominated by men. She is often portrayed as the last great pharaoh, the embodiment of Egypt's glory and its final dramatic decline. As you reflect on Cleopatra's life, imagine her standing on the shores of the Nile, gazing out over the waters that had sustained her kingdom for millennia. Though her reign marked the end of an era, Cleopatra's story remains one of ambition, resilience, and an unyielding will to shape the course of history. She was the last pharaoh of Egypt, but her legacy, like the great Nile itself, flows endlessly through the ages.